Good evening, gentlemen. We are back. I apologize for the delay. Okay. We are dedicating tonight's shir to Herzliya Tova Bas Melech? Not Eli Melech? Bas Melech HaKohen. Okay. Zichrona Livracha. Tonight, besides being, because it would have been her birthday today, right?
It would have been her birthday, yes, 24th of Tevet.
24th of Tevet is tonight. It would have been her birthday. The Neshama Zalhaban Analiyah. So, does anyone know what other special day it is today, besides her birthday? You heard me say before, so say it. It is the Yurtzeit of the Alter Rebbe. Thank you, Aryeh. Yes, it is. Okay, so we have to speak a little bit about the Alter Rebbe, because he was very, very instrumental in everything that we're doing right now. Very instrumental. So, where do you even begin? Who was the Alter Rebbe Talmud of? The Magid of Mezrich. That is correct. The Baal Shem Tov, his main Talmud was the Mezritcher Magid, otherwise known as the Rebbe Ber. He is the one who broadened the entire Hasidic system. His campaign was to dafka specifically target the greatest geniuses of the Tamil Chachamim, bring them into the Hasidic world, and then try to send them out and into different cities and spread the Chassidus. And they would also become their own rebbes and make a Chassidic group, and then they would in turn make new rebbes, and the whole thing would spread out, which it did, and took over much of Eastern Europe. One of the greatest Talmidim of the Heilige Mezritcher Magid, the Rebbe Ber, was the Baal HaTanya. In Chabad, they don't call him the Baal HaTanya, they call him the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe, which means the old Rebbe. What can we say about the Baal HaTanya? So the first thing that we can say is, it's interesting that he was a genius. They say that he knew the entire Talmud by the age of 12. He also was an expert at Chumash by the age of 12. And he was, at a certain point, he lived in Vitebsk, and at a certain point he had to decide where he's going to further his learning. He was learning with Malamed, and the Malamed taught him everything he could teach him, and he was done. He could not teach him anymore. Baal HaTanya had to make a decision to go elsewhere to learn, and he was faced with two choices. He either said, I can go to Vilna to learn, which was the territory of the Vilna Gaon, or he could go to Mezrich. That was the new rising star of the Rebbe Ber. And he wasn't sure which way to go. In the end, he said, learning, I know kind of how to learn already, right? He already knew the entire Talmud. So learning I know, but davening I don't know. So he decided to go. The Chassidim were considered experts in davening. He decided to go to the Rebbe Ber, the Mezritcher Magid, to learn how to daven. He became from the greatest Talmidim of the Mezritcher Magid. When he entered the Mezritcher Magid's whole thing, they say in the beginning he wasn't impressed, and then he was going to leave. Then many rabbis had this experience with the Rebbe Ber, and then at the end he was about to leave, and he was going to say goodbye, and that was going to be it. And then he made eye contact, and then something happened, something changed, and then the rest was history. The Baal HaTanya decided to stay, and the Rebbe Ber, the Mezritcher Magid, was so in love with him and saw such potential that he gave him his own son to learn with. The son of the Mezritcher Magid. Does anyone know his name? His name was Avram. And does anyone know how we called him? We called him Avram HaMalach. He was Avram the angel because he was considered like an angel. He hardly ate, he hardly slept, and actually it says his father wasn't happy about it. And he used to warn him to eat and to sleep, and in the end he passed away very young, this Avram HaMalach. And anyway, the Baal HaTanya loved the Mezritcher Maggid loved the Baal HaTanya so much and saw such potential that he dafka took his own son to learn with him Bechavrusa. Also, the Baal HaTanya was a massive genius in halacha and Kabbalah, Gemara, you name it. He was a real true Talmud Chacham. The Mezritcher Maggid put him on a mission to update the Shulchan Aruch, which was a massive undertaking, because since the Shulchan Aruch was written in the 1500s, many new questions came up, many new minhagim came up, and this is how halacha works, that it constantly has to be updated. And the Baal HaTanya went on a major campaign to update the Shulchan Aruch, and it is called Shulchan Aruch Harav. And it's not just used in Chabad, it's considered a major halachic source. And not only that, but the Mishnah Brura, when he was writing the Mishnah Brura, the Heilige Chafetz Chaim, he used many svarim. He was doing the same thing, just he was doing it about 100 years ago. So he also had to use all these different svarim to update the Shulchan Aruch, and he used the Shulchan Aruch Harav as well. The Baal HaTanya is famous for writing the Sefer HaTanya. Now, he wrote other Svarim also, and he wrote very deep Svarim, but he wrote Sefer HaTanya. Now, you should know it was not without opposition. And believe it or not, of course, at that time, we're talking about 250 years ago, at that time, the Misnagdim and the Chassidim were not getting along at all, and the Misnagdim were very against Chassidus. They had all kinds of fears what it could turn into. So of course, the Baal HaTanya had a lot of opposition from the Misnagdim, that's for sure. But within the Chassidus itself, there was a massive Talmud of the Mezritcher Maggid. There were two Talmidim actually. One of them's name, it's funny because the Baal HaTanya came from this city. One of them his name was Reb Mendele Vitebsker, from Vitebsk. Okay, Reb Mendele Vitebsker, the Baal Shem Tov tried to go to Eretz Yisrael, he never made it, but he spoke about Eretz Yisrael with such a fire, and even though he didn't make it, the Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov understood that it's a massive thing, life-changing, Mashiach-bringing concept, that we should go and try to live in Eretz Yisrael. So after the Baal Shem Tov was nifter, there was a major aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, and this was the first aliyah, by the way. After that, the Talmidim of the Gra also tried to go to Eretz Yisrael and didn't make it. But the Baal Shem Tov's Talmidim were the first group. There were always individuals that went to live in Eretz Yisrael, but the first major aliyah after the Chorban Beis HaMikdash was Talmidei HaBaal Shem Tov. Afterwards was Talmidei HaGra. Basically, Talmidei Baal Shem Tov ended up going to Tveria and Tzfas. Talmidei HaGra ended up going to Yerushalayim. Until today, Tzfas and Tveria are more Chassidish places. Until today, Yerushalayim there's a lot of Chassidim in Yerushalayim, but the Litvish's the headquarters of the Litvish is Yerushalayim till today. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you. So Reb Mendele Vitebsker led the Aliyah of Talmidei Baal Shem Tov to Eretz Yisrael, and he is buried today in Tveria, where he lived. When he was nifter, I'm trying to think who was first. 1 second. I think Reb Mendele was the first leader. I forget who was first and who was second. I think Reb Mendele Vitebsker was the first. When he was nifter, who took over? A massive tzaddik. His name was Avram Kalitzker from Kalitsk. A lot of people don't, if you're not into Chassidic history, you might not know that name. Avram Kalitzker was a fire. When Reb Nachman went from Breslov, went to Eretz Yisrael, he visited Avram Kalitzker. He said he never saw such a tzaddik in his life. Can you imagine? This is what Reb Nachman said on Avram Kalitzker. Now, what's fascinating is Avram Kalitzker led the Hasidic movement in Eretz Yisrael. He was a burning fire, and he was actually against the Sefer HaTanya and against the derech of the Baal HaTanya. Why? Why would it be this way? So something very controversial about the Sefer HaTanya was that there was a lot of Kabbalah in Sefer HaTanya, a lot. And even though it was the derech of the Baal Shem Tov to take Kabbalah Kisvei HaRizal and bring it down in the way that you could understand it, the Baal Shem Tov only did it to a certain level. The Baal HaTanya went and he made a whole organized system, a systematic handbook of Chasidus, a systematic handbook of how to live according to the way of the Baal Shem Tov. That is what Sefer Tanya is. And he took much more concepts, not just from the Arizal, but also from the Ramak, who was the Rebbe of the Arizal. In a way, the Arizal actually used to go to his shiurim. He was the Gadol Hador in Kabbalah before the Arizal. And the Baal HaTanya took this to a new level of explaining massive Kabbalistic concepts in a way that everyone could understand it, and this was considered very, very controversial, for sure, to the Misnagdim, for sure. But even Avram Kalitzker, who was a Talmud of the Mezritch Maggid and the leader of the Kehillah in Eretz Yisrael, was fire against it. So there became a big issue between the Baal HaTanya and Avram Kalitzker. Now, we always say that when it's happening, we never really know who's right and who's wrong when the fight is happening. Forgive me, but it was a machlokes. But history always proves how Hashem wanted it to turn out. So, very sadly, from Avram Kalitzker today, there are no Kalitzker Hasidim. I'm not even sure if we have a sefer from Avram Kalitzker. I'm not sure. We might have some Torahs from him. So we almost have nothing today from Avram Kalitzker. He was a massive tzaddik. Rav Nachman said he was a massive tzaddik. We almost have nothing from him. Chabad, some people consider Chabad to be the biggest Hasidus on the planet. Okay? Chabadsker Svarim, they have the Tanya. Do you know how many people are learning the Tanya? And there's others, and not just... And the Baal HaTanya himself wrote other Svarim, and the Shulchan Aruch Harav. And then there was a whole dynasty of 7 Chabad Rebbes, and they all wrote. And we have more Torah from the last Rebbe, from all these Rebbes combined. So it's just interesting that in the end you see what Hashem wanted, right? It doesn't mean someone was right and someone was wrong. But yeah, go ahead.
Kalitzker have anything to say about Rabbi Nachman and like Tamaran, or was that not?
The only thing I can tell, I don't know. It's a good question. The only thing I can tell you is that Rav Nachman's one of his goals was to try to make peace between these two, and that's why when he went to Eretz Yisrael, the Baal HaTanya never made it to Eretz Yisrael. He tried, but he never made it either. So they loved each other. Avram Kalitzker and Rav Nachman, they loved each other. And Rav Nachman was in Eretz Yisrael for many months, and he spent a lot of time with Avram Kalitzker, and he tried to make peace. As a matter of fact, when Rav Nachman returned from Eretz Yisrael, he started going home, and he reminded himself that he had passed the city of the Baal HaTanya, and he had to make peace. So he turned around something, I don't remember if it was like 500 miles, some crazy amount of time. He didn't even go home yet. He turned around and he went to the Baal HaTanya to try to make peace. Now, it's very, I have to tell you something else, a fascinating, emotional story that we see all the greatness that came out of Chabad till today, and it was known, I don't know how exactly it was known, but it was known that the Baal HaTanya, I believe he got some kind of a sickness, and the Baal HaTanya was of the opinion that the Samach Mem, the angel of evil, was out to get him, because if he can chas v'shulam bring down the Baal HaTanya, he can save the world from Mashiach. Basically, so the Baal HaTanya, I believe, he got some kind of a disease. He was very sick, and it was understood. The Baal HaTanya understood that this is a Samach Mem trying to destroy him, so that this Chassidus should stop. The Baal HaTanya had a daughter. I don't remember her name now, but everyone understood that this is what was going on. And believe it or not, this is going to sound very, very, very strange, but the Baal HaTanya's daughter took it upon herself that she would give her life instead of her father. And it's a very strange emotional story that on Rosh Hashanah, the minig by Chassidim is that by Rosh Hashanah at night, everyone says at night you come home and you say to your wife, you say to the kids, L'shana Toiva, Tikosei, V'sei Chosem, La'al L'chaim Toiva, Shalom, Git Gebencher, whatever, different nusuks, right? So the minig by Chassidim is that Rosh Hashanah night, everybody goes to the tzaddik, right? And everyone extends their hand and they say L'shana Toiva to the and he blesses everybody. The story goes, she went to her father, and her father started saying to her, L'shana Toiva, he started blessing her. And she said, stop. And he was like, and then she blessed her father for L'shana Toiva, I don't know the exact nusach, but she benched her father that he should have long life and a good life, and she refused to accept the blessing of her father. And that was like really strange. And everyone was like, whoa, what's this? And then it came out. So people started asking her, and she told people that she took upon herself that she's going to die instead of her father. And it went to the Beis Din there in Chabad, and they told her, you're not allowed to do it. And she said, I don't care, I'm doing it anyway. And in the end, she passed away, and he lived, and her child, she had one child. That child became the apple of the eye of the Baal HaTanya, and he trained that child that after 120 years, when he would pass away, that child would become the next Rebbe. And that's what it was, and that's what happened. The Sefer HaTanya has 53 chapters, and like I said, there was major fireworks going on at that time between the Misnagdim and the Chassidim, and 2 times the Misnagdim mustered on the Baal HaTanya. The Baal HaTanya used to collect money to send to the Yishuv in Eretz Yisrael, and the Misnagdim accused him of sending money to the enemy. It's a whole thing because the Eretz Yisrael was under, I don't know if it was under the Turks and then and Russia was fighting the Turks, and so it was like you're sending money to the enemy, right? Don't ask. It was very dirty fights, very dirty fights, and the Baal HaTanya was in prison 2 times, once and then 2 years later. And the second time, and as a matter of fact, by the way, every single Chabad Rebbe sat in prison. All 7 of them. Every single one sat in prison. It's like a exactly. It's like, yeah, if you want to be a tzaddik in Chabad, you have to go to prison. So he said,
The last one?
what's that?
The last one?
Yeah, also, sure. Under the Russian government tried to destroy Yiddishkeit. It's a communist government. They all sat in prison, every one of them. The Baal HaTanya was in prison for 53 days, and there's a Masorah in Chabad that because there are 53 chapters in Tanya, that this was a Samach Mem trying to destroy the Baal HaTanya, and he had to sit in prison for 53 days connected the 53 chapters in Sefer HaTanya. After the Baal HaTanya when he was finally released, B'derech Nes, okay, somehow, I don't know what happened over there, but when he got out, he couldn't right away go free. He had to stay in somebody's house. I don't remember the reason. I don't. In Chabad, they can tell you all these things. They know these things to the T. He had to stay in some Jewish guy's house who was a Misnagid. The Misnagid, I don't know how long he stayed there. If he stayed there a day or 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. He said the Baal HaTanya said on this stay that he had more Yisurim from this misnagid for those few hours, and he had the whole 53 days in prison. We have a famous picture of the Baal HaTanya. It's actually not a picture, it's an illustration. Where was it? How did we get? Now, if you look at Hasidic Rebbes from that time, we do not have, there's a picture of the Baal Shem Tov, it's not him. It's a different Baal, someone went by the name Baal Shem. As a matter of fact, in that picture, you can see that he's holding a compass because he was an astrologer. If you look at you'll see the Baal Shem Tov was not holding a compass, right? So we do not have a picture of Baal Shem Tov. We do not have a picture of Mezritch Magid. We do have a picture of the Baal HaTanya. It's not a picture, it's an illustration. There were no pictures then. Photography was 1850. No picture, but we do have a very good illustration. How was that illustration taken? Someone, I don't know the exact story. When he was in prison, it was known that this is from the greatest rabbis of the Jews, is now sitting here in prison. Someone came and did a sketch of him. And that's... I don't know. In Chabad they can tell you. I don't know. That's why, because he sat in prison, that's why we have a clear illustration of what the Baal HaTanya looked like. When the Baal HaTanya was in prison, the prison warden, the Goyish prison warden, got to know him, was extremely impressed with him. And there's even a Maisa that the prison warden was a religious person who studied Bible, and he asked the Baal HaTanya a question. After Adam HaRishon ate from the Eitz Hadas, Hashem said something to him. He said to him, Ayeka, where are you? So the prison warden studied Bible. So he asked the Baal HaTanya, Rabbi, you're an expert in the Bible. What does it mean? God didn't know where he was? What does that mean, Ayeka? You hear the question? What does that mean? So the Baal HaTanya says, I'll tell you what it means. It means that Adam HaRishon is the prototype of every single person that will ever exist. It says in Sfarim that every single neshama existed in Adam HaRishon when he lived. We were all in Adam HaRishon. That means we all did that sin. We all did the Aveira of eating. We all ate from the Eitz Hadas. Can you imagine? The prison warden asked him, what does it mean? Hashem said to him, Ayeka. The Baal HaTanya answered, in every single generation, Hashem asks each individual, Ayeka, where are you? What are you doing with your life? What have you accomplished in your life? What have you done for other people? What have you done for me, says God. Ayeka, where are you? Where are you standing? And then he said to the prison warden, for instance, you are, and he said his age. He said, you're 53 years old. The guy was like, how did you know I was 53 years old? I don't know if it was 50, whatever it was. The guy was like, whoa. And he says, you're 53 years old. God says to you, prison warden, what have you done in 53 years? What have you accomplished? What have you done for me in 53 years? Where are you going? How much longer are you going to be here on this world? So that's the famous interaction between the Baal HaTanya and the prison warden. While the Baal HaTanya, by the way, you can go to Russia today and see the prison cell that the Baal HaTanya was in, and it says that there's a Masorah that when the Baal HaTanya was in prison, he both the Baal Shem Tov and his Rebbe, the Mezritch Magid, came to him. He never saw the Baal Shem Tov, by the way. He was alive. I think he was 2 or 3 years old or something when the Baal Shem Tov passed away. He never saw him. I don't think so. Baal Shem Tov and his Rebbe, the Mezritch Magid, came to him in prison. They were both not on this world anymore. And he asked them, should I continue in this derech that I'm giving over the Tanya in the way I'm teaching Hasidus, or have I gone too far? And they said, you should continue, and you should strengthen yourself and go further and further and further. The last interesting thing I want to tell you about the Baal HaTanya is that at the end of the Baal HaTanya's life, there was a massive political event unfolding. Does anybody know what did you say? Napoleon. Yes, Napoleonic Wars. Napoleonic Wars. So Napoleon was from which country?
France.
And who was France fighting against?
Russia.
There was a debate amongst the Hasidim, amongst the Tzaddikim. Who should win the war? You should know.
Who do they want to win?
Sorry?
Like, who do they want to win?
Not just who do they want to win.
Who should win?
Who will win? Who will win? Who will win? There was a massive machlokes going on amongst the tzaddikim, and this was the Ikr Nakuda. Napoleon stood for freedom. As a matter of fact, it's not the place that, do you know Napoleon started a Sanhedrin? Do you know that? Napoleon set up a Sanhedrin with Talmidei Chachamim and reformists and secularists, and he got the whole story that he got a massive Talmid Chacham to be the head of the Sanhedrin, and this Talmid Chacham manipulated everything so that he knew Napoleon would have agendas. The Jews should vote on this, and they weren't good. You couldn't, darned if you do, darned if you don't. This person always schlepped, this Rosh Sanhedrin was such a genius, he was always able to schlep out everything, so nothing ever got accomplished over there. There are coins that are minted that say the Sanhedrin of Napoleon. It's a fascinating, Napoleon was not against Yidden. He was not against Yidden. It was Adrabah. At that time, there were so many anti-Jewish laws, and Napoleon said, no, freedom. Napoleon stood for freedom. That's what Napoleon was all about. The tzaddikim had a big problem with that. Well, it depends. Some people say this is great, because there were pogroms going on. The Yidden were poor. They weren't allowed to trade in this. They weren't allowed to do this. They weren't allowed to do this. Napoleon was gonna free them from all that. But that was one side of the coin. The other side of the coin was, yes, the Yidden will physically be much better off. But free. Frei. Free means frei. You know what frei means? Free. Everything free. Everything free. Totally free. So other tzaddikim held that, yes, the gashmias, the physical well-being of the Yidden will be much better under Napoleon, but the spiritual well-being will be a disaster. They're all going to go totally off. And that was the opinion of the Baal HaTanya. Most of the tzaddikim went along with that opinion. There were others that went the other way. The Rebbe Rabbinim seemed to have been siding with Napoleon. The Rebbe Mendel of Rimanov, who was a massive tzaddik, was with Napoleon. Anyway, a whole thing. There's different nusachs of this story, but the nusach that I was makabel was that the tzaddikim had a Masorah that when you blew shofar on Rosh Hashanah, you could blow out whatever Yeshuas you wanted. So the Baal HaTanya, so all the tzaddikim made up that year that by Rosh Hashanah, by shofar blues and by blowing shofar, they are going to decide who's going to win this war. And by the way, it's not a joke. The tzaddikim felt that this war could be Milchemes Gog uMagog, the final war, the cosmic war, right? Anyway, by Chassidim they don't daven quickly on a regular day, and Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur it's not quick. The Baal HaTanya got up fartogs. He got up early in the morning. He got the minyan together, and they went through. And the Baal HaTanya made sure to blow shofar before any of the other tzaddikim blew shofar. They say that when the other tzaddikim went to blow shofar, they said, whoop, the Baal HaTanya beat me to it. And that's what happened. And the Baal HaTanya blew out that Napoleon should be defeated. Now, Napoleon knew what was going on. And Napoleon wanted the Baal HaTanya. He wanted them. Probably wanted them dead. There's even a fascinating story to go. I just once you get me going with the Baal HaTanya, it's almost impossible for me to contain myself. There's an amazing Maisa. Okay, listen to this. The stuff that was good. I'm leaving out, by the way, 90% of all the good stuff, but we have to learn a little Torah too. There's a Maisa that there was a Chabad Chassid that was in Napoleon's army, acting as a spy for the other side, because he knew the shit of his Rebbe was that Napoleon has to lose. There's a story that one of Napoleon's closest officers was a Jewish spy that would report to the Baal HaTanya on what's going on by Napoleon. There's a famous Maisa that there's a map spread out, okay, and all the generals are making cheshbonos on this is the map of Europe, and how we're gonna attack here, and we're gonna attack here, and here we're gonna the whole. And Napoleon's right there. He's talking to his generals, and this soldier, this spy, this Jewish spy, is standing right there saying everything. Napoleon wasn't a stupid person. Napoleon suspected he was a spy. In the middle of this entire thing, Napoleon all of a sudden goes over to him and puts his hand on his heart, like this. Now, if you're a spy, and you're by Napoleon, and they're talking about all the secrets of the war, your heart is thumping, okay? And Napoleon knew that, and Napoleon went to feel his heart, and his heart was totally calm. So Napoleon was like, okay, he's not a spy. They asked him afterwards, how did you do that? Why wasn't your heart pumping? He says, by the Baal HaTanya, I learned that the mind controls the heart. That's the story. In the end, of course, Napoleon is losing the war, and Napoleon very, very, very badly wants to get a hold of the Baal HaTanya. The Baal HaTanya has to pick up and leave and run from Napoleon, and Napoleon and his army are after. They're trying to get to the Baal HaTanya. Not only that, they say there's such a Messiah that Napoleon's army used kishif, witchcraft, in order to try to manipulate the war. I don't know too much about it, but one rule they say about kishif is that if a person can get a kishif macher, a witch, a sorcerer, can get a hold of an item of the person that he wants to destroy, with that item, he can harm the person. The Baal HaTanya understood this. When the Baal HaTanya left, he took his whatever possessions he could take. He told them, burn everything. I don't want Napoleon to get anything that I have. They burnt the house, they burnt everything down as he was running. Then he remembered, the Baal HaTanya remembered that his shoes were not in the house and they were not burnt. He made them go back for his shoes. Napoleon shouldn't get his shoes. And in the end, the tragedy of this story is that in the haste and in the running away from Napoleon never gets him. But that's how the Baal HaTanya is nifter, running. He's running, and he's buried in a certain place called Hadich in Ukraine. He's buried in a whole different, because he was running away. He's not buried with all the other. When we go to Uman, we go to all the Kivrei Tzadikim. If you go to Hadich, it's like 6 hours away each way. Like, you're going to Hadich, you're not going to anybody else. It's a whole different. And Zechusai Yogan Aleini Val Kol Yisrael. Okay, so I hope we did some kind of justice to the. Only took 33 and a half minutes. And Marav is in 7 minutes. Okay, so let's try to learn a little bit. I apologize. Okay. Where are we in the Sefer? In the Sefer we are in. Okay, we're on page Kuf Pei. Does everyone have Kuf Pei? The second paragraph, like in the middle. Everyone have that? Yeah, we're okay? Almost okay. You got it? Kuf Pei? Okay. You see the middle? V'sidroi? V'sidru lanu kadmonenu seder tefillah shachris b'chol yoim. Our earlier ones, our chachamim, our chazal, prepared for us the seder of shachris every day. Al derech hadalad oilamas halalu. Shachris follows in the pattern of the four worlds. As we daven shachris, we ascend from one world to the next, and we ascend through the four worlds. Bo'ifan halicha madrega lamadrega, as if we're walking from one level to another level. Ke'ein shenechnasen laheichal melech basar v'dam, as if we are entering the palace of a king. Ki malchusa derakia kein malchusa da'ara, because the kingdom of Shemayim, of the heavens, is just like the kingdom of the ground down here, the our kingdom, a palace of a king down here. It's a parallel. As a matter of fact, the reason why a king, we don't have kings really today, but in Jordan they have a king. Certain places still have a king. The reason why we have such a thing down here as a king and a palace and a throne chamber, all these things, is because this is only a mirror image of how it works up there. Let's keep going the next page. Kuf, Pei, Aleph. V'sei, I get in Rabbi from. The Seder HaTfilah b'chol oilam v'oilam. The Seder of Tfilah, of the Tfilah in every single oilam. Hu kedei la'asois hatikkun hashayich b'makom hahu. As we move through the four worlds, we are making tikkunim, we are fixing things. A person should imagine when he's davening that he is breaking through avirim v'rakiim. Avirim means space, rakiim means skies, umala heavens, umala nishmasa me'olam v'ad olam, and he is elevating his neshama from one world to a higher world. Al zeho oifen, just like this, as follows. Turn the page. Kuf Pei Beis Aleph. B'tchilas atfilah, in the beginning of davening shachris in the morning, adayin oimdim ba'olam hasiyah. We start in the world of Asiyah, the lowest of the four worlds. Shehu oilam hazeh, which is this world. V'oisin hachana harishoina la'alois el Hashem, and we do the first preparation to elevate ourselves to Hashem. What is that preparation? Ba'miras parshiyos korbanos. The first part of davening after we say brachas is the korbanos. Why do we say korbanos first? Why? Because korbanos is mechaper avonos. We're about to meet the king. We can't. The expression is ein levoyel shar melech b'levush sak. It's taken from Megillas Esther. They told that Mordechai knew that something bad was going to happen from Ruach HaKodesh, so he went and he wore sackcloth. It was the derech of the Nevi'im to wear sackcloth if they were mourning or something bad, Chas v'shalom, was going to happen. So and then when they tell Mordechai was by the Shar HaMelech, they tell Mordechai, you can't go in like this with the sackcloth. Says the Sefer Sifsei Chein, you cannot enter the king with a sackcloth. You can't be dirty. You got to look like a mensch when you go into the king. That means you can't go into the king with a virus. So you have to be mechaper on your virus. How are we mechaper with the virus? By korbanos. So the purpose of korbanos was to be mechaper, to atone for sins. Umavriach hasaklipois sheloi yim na'uhu. And we push away the klipois, the forces of evil, sheloi yim na'uhu, that they shouldn't hold him back. Me'alois el Hashem, hold him back from rising to Hashem. V'kivan shehu bo'olam ha'asiyah. Since we now start off Shachris, we're calling the oil because Korbanos is connected Asiyah. So Iker Tikunoi Hu Bamir Seder Avodas Beis Hamikdash Shu Avodas Hashem B'Maisa. So because we start off in this world called Asiyah, which is the world of Maisa, it's a world of physicality. Bang, bang, bang. We bang the table. With physical things here. That's why we say Korbanos there. Because Korbanos is considered avodas Hashem b'maisa. Korbanos means you take the animal, you take the knife, you shech the animal, you sprinkle the blood. This is maisa. This is actions. These are mitzvahs that are actions. So that's why Korbanos is action, and we say it in the world of action, and it parallels the world of action, base. So that starts from brachas until we get to Baruch She'amar, base. Sorry?
929.
I'll keep going till they call. Is that okay? We'll hop around until they call. Is that okay with you? Baruch She'amar ad yishtabach. When we daven from Baruch She'amar till yishtabach, nichnasim le'olam hayetzira. We enter the world of yetzira. Shehu dugmas chatzar hamelech. What does that mean, yetzira? It's it's in the mashal. It is the courtyard of the king. V'sham oimrim shirois v'sishbachois. There we say songs and praises hanikra, which are called pesukei de zimra. Pesukei de zimra. Kisham, because over there, nitzrach avoida gedoyla lezamer aritzim. This is very interesting what he says here now. He says over there in the next world, the world of Yetzirah, we have to be, now the Zamer Aritzim, what this really means is to cut off the oppressors. That means, again, it means that there are forces of evil that are trying to hold back our tefillas from getting to Hashem, and those are considered called Aritzim, which means the oppressors. The Zamer Aritzim means to cut off the oppressors. It's very interesting. It's a play on words. By the Friday night, we have 3 Zmiris that the Arizal wrote. Well, there's more actually, but there's 3 that we say every night. One, they're called Askinu Sudasa, right? So the one we say Friday night starts Azamer Bishvachim. The translation is really Azamer, I will sing Bishvachim, I will sing with praises. But according to Kabbalah, it also means azamer. Azamer means to cut, to prune. To prune a tree is that's this lashon of azamer. So it means azamer b'shvachim. It means by singing the praises of Hashem Friday night by our Shabbos tish, by our Shabbos table, I cut off the oppressors. It's a play on words. Mipnei ha'avadim ha'shomrim ha'nimtzoim b'chatzer ha'melech. Turn the page. Because there are, the king has servants, and the king has guards, and they stand in the chatzar ha'melech. They stand in the king's courtyard. She'enam manichim likones. They don't allow people to enter. V'kivan she'olam hayitzira who connected Siras Tiferes, since the Olam Yitzir is connected to Sir of Tiferes, which we spoke about in other Shurim, Shehu Bechinas Dibur, which physical aspect is Tiferes, is Dibur, is speaking, Iker Tekunoi Hu Be'amiras Shiras V'Shishpachos. So in that world, in Yitzira, the main thing is to sing Shiros V'Shishpachos, praises, B'Dibur Hapeh, with your mouth, Umaschilim b'tfilas Baruch Sha'amar, and we start with the tefillah called Baruch Sha'amar, because again, Amar, we're speaking. V'haya oilam, sha'oilam nivra al yedei diburoi shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because the world was created from the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And here we will stop until next week. If anyone has the opportunity to learn any sefer, especially the Tanya, there's excellent there's now I think a 3-volume translation came out. Yeah, the practical Tanya. That's exciting.
There's one by Rav Miller.
Chaim Miller, right? Rabbi Chaim Miller.
Good. There's another one, Steinholtz.
Steinsaltz?
Steinsaltz
has a Tanya.
Tanya. There's lessons in Tanya as well.
Lessons in Tanya, yeah. There's a lot of good stuff, and
it seems to be the better one. Has a lot of good explanation.
Which one? Steinsaltz?
Steinsaltz I haven't read.
Which one has a better one?
Rav Miller.
Rav Miller. It's supposed to be the best one. Rabbi Chaim Miller. Anyone who wants to learn Tanya, if you want to learn Lashon Kodesh, there's called Chasidus Meva Eres. You can learn the Tanya that way.
A really good series. Rabbi Michalowitz.
Has Shurim and Tanya?
Has Shurim and Tanya.
Where do you get it?
It's right on his website.
Okay, anyone who wants to go to the Westmount Shul website can get English Shurim and Tanya from Rabbi Michalowitz.
And it's great because when he teaches, it's so meaty. It's so
very good to
know.
Walk
away from that like I get it.
Zechusa Yogan Aleinu Kol Yisrael. Zechusam Yogan Aleinu Kol Yisrael.